Mic check. All right. What's going on, everybody? Hope y'all are having a splendid day. Let's see. I think we'll have a few less technical difficulties. I've actually started with my mic working today, so we're off to a great start. Okay. And we are going to get straight into working today. I had quite a few technical difficulties yesterday and ended up mostly just demoing the application. I actually probably do need to change my title real fast. Yeah, give me 1 second on that. Let's see here. We go to Stream Manager. I think we're just going to change it to day 6. It's kind of just, we're just picking up where we left off yesterday. Let's see here, day 6. Oops. And let me try the YouTube as well. Let's see here. Edit. Okay. So we are going to hop right into working today. Working on these edge cases. I got a plan file kind of started up that we can take a look at. This is just, it's going to need some adjusting. This is just kind of an initial plan that I got Claude to put together, but we're going to do quite a bit of refining. These edge cases have to have very specific solutions so that they don't mess up the workflow and add too much wait time, and actually properly address what we're looking for. So we are going to scan through this plan and probably do some adjusting. So just a quick explanation before we get started. kdoitall is a desktop automation CLI application. So you can use kdoitall to put together workplaces with multiple applications. You can check out the project on GitHub, the same handle as I have on Twitch, Codeman Ethan. And what it does is you can put together these workspaces and then just launch all these applications at one time, and have them placed on specific desktops, specific screens, and to a specific position. And it just allows you to basically automate your windows through the terminal. But with that little explanation, and we'll be doing some demoing today as well, so you'll be able to see what's going on. Let's get into our edge case though. Today we're dealing with splash windows. So there is an issue whenever you launch Windows. Now sometimes a splash window will pop up for a second and disappear, and then the actual application window will appear. And so kdoitall will have some issues sometimes where it detects the splash window and assumes it's the actual window. So we just need to add some logic in to basically make sure that a window is stable before we verify that it is the actual window. Okay, so let's go into this. So we have a few things implemented already. We have a Boolean, but I'm already thinking that we probably need to change the Boolean. We don't use a whole lot of Booleans. There's usually not much of a reason to have Booleans. They're kind of too limiting. I think, for the most part. Safe mode detection runs wait for stable window. Okay. Launch pipeline plumbing, what remains. So in our main execute launch window function, we need to implement this. So again, we're going to be doing a little bit of refactoring what we've already worked on. So let's go over here to Claude. Let's make some adjustments to the plan, and I think instead of using a Boolean for splash window, we should use a string so we can have the values unknown, true, and false. Each of those cases will be handled differently. During the main launch, during the execute launch window function, execute launch window function, we would need to check to make sure the window is stable. If the case is unknown or true, but we can skip that. We can skip the check if the case is false. This will require some refactoring the work already completed. Let's adjust the plan first. Should get us started. So whenever we're addressing these splash windows and whenever we're addressing all these edge cases, we're just really having to be very specific about our solutions. There's just so many edge cases that you have to deal with whenever you launch an application, to where when an application is launched and then when kdoitall can actually detect that application. And just with all these edge cases, like, you don't want one check for one edge case messing up another check for another edge case, and there's a lot of ways you can go wrong here. So, you know, there are some sections when creating this application where I could let kdoitall, or not kdoitall, when I could let Claude make more decisions, and I could be a little bit less involved. But this is definitely the section where I need to be most involved and need to be really overseeing everything that happens. So and it's mostly just because Claude doesn't really have good knowledge of what's going on. You know, it doesn't have information about every single application, and, well, whenever you launch this application, what exactly happens? That's not something that's all over the internet. You know, it's not something widely known. You know, really, I have to go in, launch a window, or launch an application and see what actually happens, and then from there adjust how kdoitall handles launching applications. So there's not much of a feedback loop that Claude can get. A lot of it has to come from me. So is it not finding files? Maybe I should have addressed it towards some files. Oh, sorry, that's actually my fault. That's okay. Let's give it some files to work with. I thought I already did that. And we'll give it the core file as well. Okay. I think this is one of the funner projects to work on, just because it does require so much of my input. You know, if I was just making a simple website of some sort, there's probably not a whole lot of my own design that would have to go into it. It's would be pretty easy for Claude to put stuff together like that. And I watch creators on YouTube talking about how they have a hard time uh, finding where they fit in now that AI is doing all the work for them. And they also have a hard time getting rid of AI just because they know how much faster it is to use AI to code with. And I definitely feel that with some projects that I work on. But like I said, this is one of the funner projects to work on. It's because there aren't projects like this that I've found. Tell me if you found anything maybe for a different distro, or maybe for Arch or something. But I haven't really found anything like this, so it's one of the reasons that I'm making it. We will look over this plan now. Let's see what it said. Here's Claude's plan. Has splash window is currently stored as Boolean default null, relying on SQL's 3-state Boolean. Yeah, that's just not enough states to work with, because we would also want blank to be known, where, well, maybe not necessarily, but okay. Schema change. We'll do a schema change. Change it from a Boolean to a string. We can remove the Boolean conversion block. We can return unknown for null. Plan document. Okay, so this is just going to refactor a bit of the work we've already done, and Claude's also going to update the plan, and then we'll get more into what's going on here. Okay. Okay. We'll let that go. I mean, it's something I've been thinking of as well. Where do developers actually fit into the mix now? I just started developing probably 3 years ago, and for the first 2 years, I was really just developing in VBA, so I was confined to Excel for the most part. And I got proficient with VBA, so I learned how to hand code, and was also using some ChatGPT to help learn along the way. But it was so early on back then that I used ChatGPT to kind of help me along the way, but then had gotten to the point where hand coding was more effective than using ChatGPT. And so I basically stopped using ChatGPT for a while, and then decided to jump into wider horizons, and got into Python and JavaScript, and all the some other popular coding languages, and switched over to Linux as well. And so had a lot to learn and a lot to pick up. And so initially I was using AI a lot, because I would be trying to kind of focus on one thing to learn about, and would have to also know about these other things. Like I was trying to make web applications, and so it's like you have to know the back-end language, database, and then for your front end, JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. And I was mostly putting off all the work onto the AI for the front end. Okay, so we have updated all of those changes. Part C. Okay, and he has updated the plan now, so splash window equals true to use stability verification after initial detection. Okay. Read over this. Stability. When has splash window equals unknown. App hasn't been through safe mode. It's not in the registry at a lightweight verification that doesn't significantly impact normal launch latency. Okay, I'm actually going to ask Claude about this first and just see what kind of implementation it's going to make. Okay, tell me how the implementation tell me how you're going to implement the splash window detection into the execute launch window based on the plan file. As I have said, for both unknown and true, we should wait. Should wait momentarily for the stable window, and only if splash window equals false, should we skip the stable window check. Okay. That's what we're looking for. Two checks. Yeah, there are very few applications that actually have splash windows. I'd say for the most part, because the applications that I use on a daily basis don't have any splash windows, but there are some applications that I have that do use them, but I just don't use them as much. But you know, it's definitely possible that people use applications like this, so it's not that rare of an edge case. Okay, so it's got the right logic for that. Okay, same function, different parameters. There was one other thing I was thinking of where the actual amount of time that a launch window takes to disappear, it's probably a useful parameter to have. So there are some splash windows that are going to pop up and they're basically loading the application. And then once the splash window finishes loading, then it'll disappear and the actual application will launch. So for the most part, splash windows, I've only seen them stay there for maybe 2 to 3 seconds. But it is possible that you have longer time frames. And that's not something that would be detected if you didn't run it through safe mode. You know, safe mode would be able to wait that extra amount of time and detect the launch time. But let's see about adding that in as well. May also be a good idea to have a parameter for splash window for the amount of time it takes a splash window to disappear. This is something, this is something that could only be really done in safe mode, because we wouldn't be waiting an extended amount of time in just a regular launch. Something that we could add to the safe mode launch process. I mean, you could put it in the main one. It just might not be accurate, but it would just fail if it didn't work in the main launch process. Something that we could add to the safe mode launch process for applications that have splash windows that take a while to disappear before the main window appears. We probably wouldn't want to add that detection to the execute launch window process. Since we are not going to wait an extended period of time if it is not already known that an application has a splash window. And usually when I'm just going through like a planning phase, you'll see a lot of how I talk isn't super strict. I say we probably and I think, and I think that kind of gives Claude room to kind of push back a little bit more easily. I mean, I can also just tell it, hey, push back on what I'm saying, but I see there's kind of different levels to it, and I think when you're just kind of talking in this probabilistic language more so, it kind of opens up Claude to be more conversational about it and not just say, oh, okay, this is exactly what he wants to do. And that's kind of what this planning phase is as well. It's about seeing all the options and getting more than one opinion about it. So that's a good idea. This is what Claude's saying. If an app like Digicam takes 8 seconds for its splash to disappear, a generic launch time max wait until 2 seconds would either be too short or wastefully long. Yeah, I guess there's also a slight issue with that in that there could be different amount of load times for it. Maybe if you were to open it once and it load in and then you exit it out and then open it again, like it would already have some stuff loaded, so the splash window would be shorter. So I think we would want to probably keep on the long end. So just whatever the longest time that it detected, it should keep that, not necessarily the shortest. Safe mode already runs. Wait for stable window and knows exactly when the splash disappears. The elapsed time at the point the UUID vanishes is the splash duration. We'd capture that and store it alongside has splash window. True. Okay. I mean, it would be a one-time detection, because if it's only safe mode that's detecting it, then we're not redetecting that duration during regular launch times necessarily. So, okay. Yes, include the splash duration column in this. Keep it as a follow-up in this plan. Hope everyone's having a great day. Appreciate y'all hanging out with me. If y'all are using AI to code with, or make sure to let me know what your experience is like. Let me see. Yeah, but as I was saying a little bit earlier, just watching content creators talk about AI and how they fit into the mix. I think if I think it really comes down to the amount of decisions that you're making whenever creating an application. I'm sure you can have an overarching idea for what you want to create, and then you can just kind of keep prompting on that high level and telling Claude what you want. And you could basically not even see what it's actually planning to do. You could just be like, okay, well, do I see the outcome that I'm looking for? But I think, you can do that for simpler applications, obviously, if you're just trying to get a few things working. But as you grow in complexity with really any type of application that you're wanting to build, that's just going to get messier and messier. And being able to go in and actually make the design decisions, that's gonna stop you from having so much tech debt, is really where you need to be stepping in, because Claude can be in here and it can make a decision and be like, okay, this is the solution, this is how we can get this to work. But then you can read that over and understand that, okay, yeah, that's going to work, but it's going to it's going to break this other part later down the line, or that's going to make implementing this thing hard. And that's the thing that Claude's not going to have the context for. And you can have a vague idea of, well, I'm wanting to add this feature in the future, and if we change the code base in this way, then it's going to make doing that a lot harder. And if we just let Claude completely take over, and then you're just never looking at the code, hardly looking at the plan, then that's where things get pretty difficult. And I can definitely see someone being like, well, how am I even involved in this? What is the point of basically me even being here? Am I even a developer? Okay, let's look at the plan one more time, and then hopefully we can actually start implementing this now. I think all the bases are covered, and we're pretty refined. Okay. Learning. Okay, I'm satisfied with this. I think we can implement this. Let's see. Let me stage some changes. We'll commit what we have right now. Make a git commit. Everything together. Okay. I usually use Claude Desktop, but it has been having a lot of issues lately. It's only allowing like 20 tool calls at a time for response. So it's just been very buggy lately. Hopefully they get that fixed, because I do kind of prefer to use Claude Desktop, but I've been getting more used to using Claude Code. Implement phase 4. All right. Let's start this up. Five times more room, same pricing. Yeah, I've been working on about 2 other projects besides this one, and I feel like I have a different level of involvement in each of them. I would say this is the project that I'm most involved in, just because it's not a project that really already exists. Claude would have a very hard time making an application like this by itself, and so just realizing that, and also just seeing what it's tried to do before, I understand that it doesn't make the best design decisions for this application. We do have to be very specific, so I need to be pretty hands-on with this stuff. And then I have another application where I'm also fairly hands-on with. It's has a lot of like AI integrations with it, and I'm still kind of working out what the project structure looks like and the pipelines for it. So I'm somewhat more hands-on with that. I think it's just finding where where Claude's shortcomings are at, and most of that just comes into creating plan files and just being involved in the process and reading over things. And I have a third project that I've been working on for quite a while now. I've actually had a few different versions of it, and I've used Claude to different levels of degrees in that project. It's the largest project that I've tried to work on, and it's the one where I have ran into a lot of like dead ends and just hard barriers to cross, where it just gets so large and there's so many pieces that are interconnected that anytime we make a change, we end up breaking some random other piece where I'll be like, I don't even understand how that breaks from making this change. And I think once you start getting to that point in a project where it's like every change that you make, you're just breaking something else, you've got you're at a pretty bad place. And so I'm actually on probably my third run of making this project, and we're able to kind of reference back to previous versions of it. But this time making it, I'm trying to be. It's really hard for me to be super hands-on with it, just because it's got a really in-depth front end. It's got a pretty in-depth back end. The database is probably the most in-depth layer of it, and there's just a lot going on with it. And if I was really trying to hand code it, it would just take up all of my time. There'd be, and it would take well over a year to actually make. There's a lot of features to it. Like I say, a lot of things are interconnected. And so this round, I've just been trying to hone in on the process and create a strong feedback loop for Claude to work with. Make good documentation and make good tests for it. Just give Claude the best chance to win, basically. Is what I'm going for. It has to keep up with a few more things. Like I said, we have in-depth documentation for it, just because that's kind of the basically the layer of the code base that I interact with Claude. Like we both interact with. It's like I can read the documentation and see if it's correct. And Claude, whenever it's starting to implement something new, it's going to start with the documentation, because even though Claude can read, just the code itself, it's very easy for it to overlook like what is of importance in this code. It can see how it works overall, but unless you're telling it, hey, do like a hard analysis of this code, then it's not gonna pick up on every little tweak and everything. So I think creating documentation, that just helps it see what's important and gives it a good base to work with. So usually I'll have it look at the documentation first. There's also documents to help guide it how to implement changes on certain sections of the code. and then once it finishes all the changes, it runs the full test suite just to try to make sure we didn't break anything else. And then it's been stable so far, and it's been going well. So hopefully I can show that off at some point. It's a finance tracker application. So okay, so we have this implemented now. All changes look correct. Here's a summary of what was implemented. Just kind of looking over that real fast. Splash stability checks that run. Okay, so let's see how we're actually going to start testing this. So I know that Digicam is the application we're going to be testing. It's one of the applications I've found that has a splash window. So we're going to start off. Let me just see what workspaces I have, because I've been making a lot of random workspaces. We're going to go, why is this window so small? I made this larger earlier. Zoom in so the people can see. Okay. Hopefully y'all can see that now. So we're going to go kdoitall app info digicam. We're going to see what information we already have before we start doing this. So it hasn't detected the app name yet, hasn't detected the window class, which is pretty much one of the more important parameters that it needs to know. The title pattern doesn't have yet. Save mode not completed, launch mode unknown. Somehow it does have the launch time. As it goes, what is that? I guess that's from previous testing. So first we are going to test this with safe mode. So let's go kdoitall workspace list just to see what. I guess we can go test 2 then. Oh, well, I already have one. Okay, so I already have one with Digicam. We can go test 1. Okay, so we're going to go kdoitall workspace open test 1. We could do verbose, but we should be logging to a file, so we can look at the log if we need to. Okay, it's going to recommend safe mode. Since it hasn't been completed yet for this application, we will accept that. It's going to try to launch. There was a splash window for a second. Oh, yep, we had a fail. Which that was the issue I was running into before, where we have the first step of the safe mode process is supposed to launch the first instance, check its parameters, check its properties, and then after it verifies all that, it's supposed to try to launch it again to see if the application allows multiple instances. But if it does that first step too fast, then it skips waiting for the stability, and it didn't wait very long at all. So it's supposed to wait a lot longer than that. Also don't even see it up here. I don't know how it got closed out that fast. Unless I just did it right then. Okay. So let's go to our log. .2026. Let's delete these previous logs, because who cares? Don't need those. Okay. Okay. I have a workspace with Digicam. We'll even give it that file to help out. Oh, was it Control P test 1? Okay. Have a workspace with Digicam that I am testing. I went through the safe mode process with Digicam, and it looks like it did not wait the appropriate amount of time to check if the window is stable before it moved on to check if the application allows multiple instances, to check if the application allows multiple instances. Now, in the next edge case that we're going to be addressing, we're actually going to have a pause point right there, because we have to have the user verify if the first window that pops up is a dialog window or an application window. So we could go ahead and just add our break here, and we can just say, or maybe not. We'll see what Claude thinks. In a future for the next edge case that we are addressing, we will be adding we will have a prompt for the user after the application is launched in safe mode and before the multi-instance check. We could go ahead and add a placeholder for that now. So, I mean, it still needs to be checking for a moment. So that's not really a solution to what we're looking for. Yeah, I guess that's not so important, because we still need to be waiting and actually checking. We don't need to just pause, so let's not mention that. We'll just run with that and see what it thinks. Bada boom. Should be able to go into this and take a look at the code as well. Trying to think exactly where it's at. Okay, so it launches the application. It gets the class from the launch. It gets the class from the application. It gets the launch time, the PID, the title pattern, the launch auto detect launch mode. So what did it actually do here then? Okay. Launch and measure time. Also detects UUID. Safe mode. Yeah, it's like it didn't add any extra wait time. That's just... yeah, poor implementation on Claude's part. Maybe that's something I didn't notice. And it's just not actually... it's still just waiting for the first window and stopping, it looks like. Launch and measure time. Launch result. Safe mode, measure launch time. We'll look at that. Safe mode, measure launch time. Waiting for window with extended timeout using retry function. Detect splash window. Wait for stable window. I think it's just not waiting long enough. Okay, the log tells the full story. So, splash window was detected. Wait for stable window. Starts with threshold 3. So about, yeah, just did about 1.5 seconds. Declared stable only after 1.5 seconds. Splash window still alive during the auto detect windows. It's kind of what we were just talking about. Second window detected during multi-instance test. This is actually the real main window. Fix is straightforward. The safe mode stability check needs a much higher threshold. Safe mode is a one-time operation. Correct. So we're going to do a 15-second max wait. That's a lot. Yeah, this is just kind of where things get a little weird, because it's like we don't want a super long wait time if it is the proper window, but it's just not a whole lot we can do to get around this unless we allowed some user input of some sort. Would it be possible to allow user input at this point? So if the user sees that the main applicant, well, this is also an issue because it pops up the window above the terminal. Yeah, it would be hard to take user input at this point. You would have to be focused on the terminal. 15 seconds seems like a long wait time. I think we'll jump back down to 10 seconds. And we'll go with that. Sorry, major stutter. I don't know what that was. Let's make it a max 10-second wait time. Okay. And let's test it out again. So we will cancel this. Let's make sure, let's see what kind of information we have. App info, safe mode still not completed. Good deal. And we will open our workspace again. Go through safe mode. Okay, we have a splash window. Splash window disappears. The main window comes up. And it's about a 10-second wait time, so that's the dual instance that it's testing out now, or the multi-instance. So I'm sure the multi-instance failed because the multi-instance is going to need the info from the first launch to know if it had a splash window. So that's good progress, though. It's still saying no splash window. I don't know why. It should at least detect the splash window now. Okay, it is still not detecting the splash window. From what I witnessed, it did wait the appropriate amount of time for the splash window to disappear and the main window to appear. But so I'm not sure how the splash window wasn't detected. However, for the multi-instance test, we need to pass the splash window info to it, so the multi-instance test knows if it also needs to wait for the splash window to appear and how long to wait. And then we'll give it some information to work with. Let's give it the log. Oops. And we will give it the terminal output as well. Just for a little bit of help. Well, they can see that, but it's a little summary. And we would also need to see the extra parameter for the splash window duration for the results. That would also help. Let's exit out of here. That was good. I haven't been able to work on this project in about 2 weeks. I've been stuck on about 2 other projects and also trying to get the stream working correctly. So this is, I think it was about 14 days ago when I started working on these edge cases and didn't get too far, but did a little bit of work on it yesterday, only about 30 minutes because I was also dealing with some troubleshooting, so I think we're making some good progress today. I can definitely see us at least hopefully defeating this one edge case, and then I've got 2 more edge cases that are somewhat similar to this one that also need to be addressed. So Hope everyone's having a swell Wednesday. Wednesdays are usually my easiest day at work, so fingers crossed that that actually comes to fruition. This man's thinking, isn't he? I do have I have max effort on. Maybe I don't need max effort because he is spending a long time thinking. I'll just switch that over to high effort because I didn't realize putting max effort would make responses take quite this long. So, and I've been using high effort up until this point, and seems like it's a pretty good balance. I have the max plan. I only really work with Claude for a few hours a day, so I never use all the tokens, so I'm not too worried about token usage. For some reason, it only spent 56 tokens. Seems like it's stuck, if you ask me. Yeah, after this response, I'll switch it over to high effort. Hopefully that'll improve response time. This isn't the most complex stuff. Like I say, I'm doing most of the thought in here, so there's not a whole lot Claude has to do, and also it doesn't seem like it's been the most successful because it's like we've talked about the launch time and everything like that, and then I asked it to update the plan, and it didn't even update the plan properly to wait long enough for the stable window. So max effort doesn't seem to be pulling through for me. I do notice that sometimes, but for previous versions of Claude, I've actually preferred Sonnet over Opus. But back in like Sonnet 3.5, and I don't know what Opus was at that point, but I actually had better luck with Sonnet at those points in time, just because I felt like Opus was thinking too hard and it wasn't being effective enough with its thinking. It would end up thinking of something wrong and then going down the wrong line of thinking and just making poor decisions. I don't know if it's necessarily making poor decisions now, but it's just thinking a lot longer than it needs to about these issues. This is not that complex, I don't think. Fiddle faddling. Let's see what kind of changes it's making. I say, yeah, it's supposed to update the multi-instance, so it's doing that as well. That is quite a few changes. Also handle the caller side fallback in safe mode. Measure launch time with the failure path fix. Stability result will no longer be empty. When a splash was detected, it will contain true duration, but the final UUID will be empty, so the caller needs to handle that. Okay, let's keep it moving, man. You can do it. Almost there. The empty final UUID case is already handled. Prompts retry skip with the sleep bug fix. The failure path should be rare anyways. Okay, now we're here. Summary of the fixes. The root cause the sleep format bug. Produced 0.1 seconds instead of 1 second. Burned through its 10-second budget in less than 1 second. Okay, so there was a little bug with that. The safety net failure. Past preserved splash data. When wait for stable window can't find a replacement, it now echoes true before returning, so the caller knows a splash was detected even on failure. What would be failing? It's not a whole lot to fail there. Multi-instance test. Let's change our effort before I forget. Effort high. Okay, splash aware. Now accept splash detected. Okay, let's get it to explain this because I don't know what failure it's talking about. What failure are you referring to? See if it goes faster this time. Doesn't take all day. It's doodling. Let's see. The UUID disappeared, but the remaining check is 0 or negative. No time left to even attempt scanning for a replacement. The function did see the UUID disappear at an elapsed 5,000 millisecond. Splash detected was set to true internally, but then it couldn't find a stable replacement within the remaining budget. Hit return 1 with no output, and the caller defaulted to splash detected false. That doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, the time between the splash window disappearing and the actual window appearing was not that long. This process definitely should not be failing because we need that final window to get all the properties from the window. The function did see the UUID disappear at 5,000 milliseconds. Splash detected was set internally, but then it couldn't find a stable replacement within the remaining budget. It did not take 5 more seconds for the actual window to pop up. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It did not take over 5 seconds in between the splash window disappearing and the main window appearing. It was less than a second from what I saw. Are you sure? I mean, we can try it one more time, but that should not be failing. The function did see the UUID disappear. Sure, we are properly detecting the main window after the splash window disappears. Gitifying. I can learn some new words. I just seeing what it says right here. I don't even know what gitifying means. Anybody know what gitifying is? Is it making a lot of git commits? I don't understand. take a look, see if we can see what's going on here. Let's see. Record end time after stability verification. So it would be stability verification, detect splash windows, verifying window stability, stability result. If there is a stability result, then stability check failed, if there's not, then fall back to the initial UUID. The initial else final UUID splash detected. Yeah, I think it's just not, it's not starting that process again to actually check for the UUID after the splash window is confirmed to disappear. That would be my guess. And from what I see here, I don't see it actually running a second check, so. Stability result, wait for stable window. To think where that function's actually at. I think it's in the Control P window. Probably here. See if we have, okay. It found it before I did, so. That was the real detection bug. Auto detect windows was adding the main window to the database before process of elimination could find it. 10 of 10, 10 of 10, nothing new. Now it only removes stale windows. Okay. Okay, we'll give it a shot then. Let's go cancel that. Look at this, the info, and make sure. Splash window unknown, safe mode not completed. Clear. Let's go workspace open test 1. Accept. There's our splash window. Splash window should disappear. The main will pop up. It'll be a 10-second wait time. And it should, yep, minimize that one. I see errors, but we'll see. I don't think something got passed right. That was better. That was better. So, yep, we are detecting the splash window, so we have some amount of success here. So, verifying window stability. Found 2 new windows when it expected 1. So that makes it seem like there's an overlap there. Which is not what I see. And shouldn't be true. There shouldn't be any overlap between the splash window and the main window. I mean, there could be for other applications, I guess, but that's not what I saw for this one. And launch mode multi. I mean, it detected everything right, but could still have some issues there. Give me one moment. Oh. Yeah, I've expected these edge cases to take quite a bit to deal with. This is probably the most complex part of actually building this project, and it's what I've put off for quite a while at this point. So it's going to take a little bit of frustration, but we'll get through it. I also didn't get a title pattern, but that's a whole nother issue. Yeah, that's a different issue entirely. Okay, so let's look at our log again. Oopsie daisy. Okay. Okay, that time it did correctly detect the splash window and also correctly detected the multi-instance, detected multi-instance. However, I see in the log that there were times it detected 2 windows detected multiple windows when only one is expected. I'm not sure how it did this. From what I see, the splash window disappears before the main window appears. So let's make sure. We'll see what that does. I know this is somewhat boring edge case handling, but you know, I think this is more interesting than just seeing people straight up vibe code and just never look at the code and make very minimal amount of decisions. I don't know. I notice that certain projects that I work on with AI, I'm either more invested in each design decision, or I'm more invested in I guess in instructing Claude how to take control of the project, and you know, kind of giving Claude the ability to fill around the code base better. You know, if I'm the one that's here troubleshooting things and able to see everything, then I don't have to spend as much time making all this documentation for Claude and doing all this stuff so Claude can actually make more decisions. But with some projects that I work on, where I let Claude make more decisions, and it just needs more information whenever it's working on something. That's when I spend more time making sure that it's making tests correctly and that it's making proper documentation and upkeeping all of that. Here's what happened with the multiple windows issue. When the splash disappeared at 4,000 milliseconds, the scan found 2 new windows simultaneously. They have different classes? The second one is a short-lived auxiliary window that Digicam creates during startup. It has a class Digicam, so isTransientWindow doesn't filter it. That check only rejects windows with both empty class and empty title. The retry loop hit this for 5 attempts. On attempt 6, the auxiliary windows class had also become empty. So isTransientWindow finally excluded it. Then only the main window remained and was correctly returned. The mechanism worked, but it burned 1 second of the time budget on retries while the auxiliary window still had a class. This isn't really a code bug, it's a quirk of Digicam's startup creating a helper window that briefly has a class before it dies. No code change needed for correctness, but if you want to eliminate those errors, those error log entries, I can make... Okay, so there's a few things going on here. So we have our function that tries to detect windows that are just not important. It is transient window. You know, if a window doesn't have a class, then it's not going to be it's probably just a little temporary window that got detected and needs to be discarded. I didn't have that same check for the window title just because I'd never seen a window without a window title, so I didn't think that was important. But if that is important, then we will also add that to the isTransientWindow check. And then the second thing is the retry loop hit this for 5 attempts. So why is it detecting a window and then still retrying? Because it should have just failed right there. If it detected that, it should have assumed that, okay, that's the window, and it would have continued on. So let's address those 2 cases, and we'll see what's up. Okay, let's address 2 things here. We can go ahead and add the window title check to the isTransientWindow function. So it also checks if the window title is empty, along with the window class. Secondly, I am confused as to why the retry loop hit for 5 attempts if it was detecting a window. Did it discard the window because the window did not have a window title? I'm guessing that's what happened. Let me grab me a drink. The retry loop didn't discard the window for missing a title. The issue is different. Found 2 new windows, the main window and the auxiliary, and when found count was greater than 1, then it returned an error without outputting either UUID. Whoa, did we just crash something? What just happened? Okay, now we're good. I don't know how that happened. That makes sense. It wasn't that the window was discarded for lacking a title, it's that the function refuses to pick when there are multiple candidates, which is a good safety feature. Returned failure, and the retry loop kept hitting the same 2-window ambiguity until the auxiliary windows class also became empty, making it transient. Okay. Now a window is transient if it is missing either class or title. In this case, the auxiliary window retries would be excluded immediately on the first attempt instead of requiring 5 retries. Okay, that's a small fix, but yeah, we're just kind of trying to make this as accurate as possible. Okay, so. Okay, and lastly, we want to add. And lastly, let's add the splash window duration to the final summary for the safe mode process. Give it an example. Do the final results. And that should fully implement the splash window detection to the safe mode launch process, and then we'll deal with the main launch process. Okay. We'll test this one more time to be sure. So cancel that, clear. And also, I guess we'll add it to the app info as well. Tell us to do that as well. Well. And also add the splash window duration to the app info. It should only show if app window, or if the application has a splash window. Application's splash window equals true. And while it's doing that, we can do our test. Clear. Let's run open test 1, accept. Splash window appears. Main window appears. Should be a 10-second wait time, and it'll minimize. And the multi-instance check, another splash window. Seems like it minimizes that splash window, right? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe if there's already an instance open, then it just disappears faster. But there is an issue that it should be flatlining this second instance as well. So, yeah, there's another little bug there. Not quite done with the safe mode process yet. I think it's detecting the splash window for the second instance somehow. Man. This is quite an uphill battle. Okay. I tested the safe mode launch process for digicam again. It was mostly correct, but the multi-instance test still has an issue. It looks like it detects the splash window and minimizes it instead of waiting for the splash window to disappear and then detecting the main window and minimizing that window. I don't know why. I mean, we just added all of this into the multi-instance check, but I thought we passed the parameters from the first launch that detected the splash window and the splash window duration to the multi-instance test. Do. Not all the way there yet. Oh. If you like the stream, be sure to shoot me a follow. That'd be greatly appreciated. Working my way up to 20 followers right now. This is I think I'm in my first month of streaming and still working on getting some things set up. Working on making like a pipeline where I can create content a little bit easier, so I can actually have stuff besides my live stream. I can be posting to socials and stuff. So I won't be streaming every day, but once I get more into the flow, I should be streaming at least 3 days a week. I'll be doing 2 days this week, just yesterday and today, and then I'll have to do some other work for tomorrow and Friday, and then next week I might be able to stream for one day. I might have to cut off all of next week though. I've got a pretty busy week next week. I'll actually going to a hackathon next weekend, so I want to do a few things to get prepared for that. I've been working on a couple projects off a stream for that as well. So okay, let's see what we found. You're right, the parameters are passed, but the issue is the stability threshold inside the multi-instance test. Let me look at the code. There's the problem. Okay. Yep. The splash only needs to survive 1.5 seconds to be declared stable. Okay. A 4-second splash easily passes that. The threshold needs to outlast the splash duration. So the function keeps checking until the splash actually... I mean, you're supposed to use the duration that we just detected. Is that what you're doing? Splash, wait, max, splash, check interval. Splash to build. Okay. With splash duration, threshold, the splash survive, checks 4 seconds, disappears at check 9, then the function scans. Oh. The splash survives checks for 4 seconds, disappears at check 9, then the function scans for the replacement main window and returns it via timeout with the remaining 2 seconds. My gosh. Okay. So is the multi-instance test actually using the splash detection that was determined in the during the first launch? The first instance test. Well, the splash the splash duration is what I meant, but maybe it'll take context clues. Okay. We'll give it one more try then. Let's go back over here. Control cancel, clear. Open test 1. Now, isn't that random? Huh. That was a weird failure. I've never seen that before. kdoitall desktop detection failed. No output from kdoitall getting desktops. That's interesting. Okay. I think we will have a successful test this time. And we can move on to the main launch process. That is the hope. Flatline it. Minimize. Alright. Alright. Yes. No. Oh, I gotta reset the database. Crap. Yep. We need a database reset so I can get those columns in. That's fair. Let's do a clear. Let's go scripts dev reset. I'm not even in the directory. cd home shared projects kdoitall. Scripts dev reset. Okay. Let's do a clear. Then we'll do a kdoitall app scan. Should just take a few seconds. Okay, and then should be able to run our test again. Oops. Okay. Oh, it cleared out those. Okay. Let me. Yeah, that makes sense. Let me actually delete these. Okay, we'll create that workspace. Okay, do it all workspace create test 1 digicam. This is how you actually create workspaces. You can add as many applications as you would like. We'll go 24 for digicam. We'll use our test name, or the default name. We'll go with our current desktop. Go with that screen, and yeah, we can go full screen, that's fine. Okay. So, okay, do it all. Workspace, open, test 1. Run through this safe mode process one more time. Okay. Got the correct properties for that. And it will proceed to open the workspace. I should have moved it, just to ensure. I think we can do some adjusting for that. Let's see if it'll close. That'll kind of tell us if it actually detected it. Or let's do a kdoitall status, just to see first of all. Oh no, we don't have any active workspaces detected. That's not the best. Yet we also don't have the name there, so okay. So yeah, it's not going to detect it. Okay, now let's move to the execute launch window process. Okay, after safe mode completed, and then it launched digicam, but it seems the window is not detected correctly. And we'll give it the log. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's the registry. Oh, okay. I was like, surely the log isn't that long. 5,000 lines. And we'll jump over here to that function. We'll start taking a look at it. See what's been added to it. Splash window stability check. So It's probably just not waiting long enough. I would assume. Well, we have the splash duration in here. Not totally sure. Oh, that's just a status command. Oh. Calculate the threshold. Okay. I don't know why it keeps jumping back to the top like that. It's weird. Okay, so I think we're more confident now. We'll try it again. Oops. Okay. Let's see if it's there. Still not really doing that right. Making very slow progress today. That's all right though. Okay. I'll take a second of a breather. Oh. Okay. Let's make a little adjustment first of all. Oh, workspace edit. Going to edit the window. Edit the position. We'll go right half 2. Save and apply changes. Okay, and I should be able to do kdoitall, workspace, info, test 1 maybe. All right. We'll try this launch one more time. Yeah, still having some issues. Okay. Let's give it the log. I feel like we're getting close to it. Seem to be detecting the actual window. come over here for a second. kdoitall digicam, or kdoitall app info digicam. There's that failure again. That's weird. I'm going to look into that some more. Okay. I mean, 4 seconds. Maybe we should, yeah, I'm sure the issue there is that whenever we ran through safe mode and had it detect the duration for the splash window, it just took that exact time when we should be adding a little bit extra onto it, because that's not always going to be the exact time, and if it hits that exact time, and then it's just going to fail after that. So we'll see what Claude's thinking, but here we go again. Jump into the top. I think I just need to start a new session. But okay, here's what Claude is thinking. The splash detection worked. The UUID changed from the splash to the main, but the log ends abruptly at db add window, and the status shows that UUID is gone. That replacement was another intermediate window that died after registration. Don't say some stuff like that. The problem, the splash disappears at 3,000 milliseconds, leaving only 3 seconds to find and verify the replacement. The intermediate window gets accepted on timeout, but then dies. What intermediate window? I mean, there was that auxiliary window from before, but that should get ignored. The splash disappears at 3,000 milliseconds, leaving only... Digicam's full startup takes 13 to 8. No, it does not. No, it does not. Yo, don't be making changes for that. Brother. No, don't do that. Let's see. Digicam's full startup does not take 13 to 18 seconds. It takes less than 10 seconds. I don't know what intermediate window you are talking about. That was never a window that was detected during the safe mode launch process. We had the auxiliary, maybe I spelled that right, auxiliary window, but it was correctly ignored and should also be ignored in the execute launch window. It should already be doing that. Oh, maybe we should create a test so we can see the full launch process for Digicam, so we know exactly What is happening? Oh. Oh. Probably do need to hop into a new session. This one's been running on for a while now. This is one of the reasons I like working on Claude Desktop, because I have Claude Desktop set up where it's always telling me the plan for what it wants to do before it makes any changes, which you can probably set up something similar on this as well. Probably should do that, because I don't want it always just assuming what fix to make and then going in and changing. It was the real main window, but it still died after registration. Oh. Oh. Okay. Should probably poll faster than that. We should probably poll every 100 milliseconds. My gosh. All right. Let's run this test. Give that about 15 seconds. We'll hop back here. Let's give it the output. Let me also take a look at it. We got new. So the first was the splash window at about 2 seconds in. Has a class and a title, Digicam. And then there is that little auxiliary window that doesn't have a title. That should have been skipped. It doesn't have a title. That should be skipped. Gone. Okay, now I'm confused. Wow. I don't know if we just detected things wrong there or what just happened. Wow. That is extremely confusing. Gone. all 3 windows die and no new windows survive. Can we stop jumping, please? But Digicam is running after this, so the main window must appear. Okay, I'm starting a new session after this. What? Digicam is running after this, so the main window must appear after 7 seconds. The script ran for 15 seconds and didn't catch it. I suspect the main window reuses one of the dead UUIDs. Reuses a dead UUID? The script skips UUIDs it already saw. Let me update the script to detect. Okay. Let's run that back. This is very revealing. If it there's no way it reuses a dead UUID. That cannot even be possible. I do not believe that. Let's give that our 15 seconds. Okay. Now we should have a better idea of what's going on. Let's go ahead and... I need to start a new session. Give me a prompt so we can continue working in the next session. I will give the output from the test. Oh, I really only have about 20 more minutes to work on this. Hopefully we didn't just dig ourselves deeper in a hole. We're going to figure out exactly what was just revealed here. But if we're using a dead UUID, that adds quite a bit more complexity to the situation. So we'll see. Okay, let's give it that along with the output. And we'll take a look at the output as well. Okay. Wow. So the splash window appeared at 2 seconds. Then it disappeared at 4.5 seconds. And then it reappeared at about 4.6 seconds. A new window appeared, which is the auxiliary window. Another window appeared at that exact same time. The initial window disappeared. the first window that popped up at 5 seconds disappears. The second window that pops up at 5 seconds disappears. The window that was created at 5 seconds reappears. The second window that was created at 5 seconds reappears. The window that was created at 5 seconds disappeared and then reappeared, disappears again. Bro, there has got to be a failure in that test. Anyways, end of the story is the final window was the third window that appeared. There's got to be some error in how it's checking for these windows. I cannot believe that. There is no way. If this is the case, I'm going to have to make a complaint to Digicam for being the most complicated window application and to have the most complicated launch process for an application. Gone, reappear. Like the final, this is saying that the final window for Digicam literally appeared, disappeared, reappeared, disappeared, reappeared. I have a very hard time believing that. And it is saying that took all of the 15 seconds. There's no way. There is no way. We have some issue in our detection process because I cannot believe that. Okay, we need to verify what's happening, and considering the final window was detected right before the 15-second timeout, we should also extend the timeout. From what I see, the final window for Digicam appears appears before 10 seconds. I'm not sure if we have an error in our detection process or what, but we need to do further verification. I don't want you to answer me. I've never done a BTW before, so I don't really know exactly what that did. Right. Okay. So it's saying that the final window was stable for over 8.5 seconds and then briefly disappeared and reappeared. That's not startup behavior. That could be KON's recycling and Windows Surface, a compositing event, or something else entirely. I mean, we are kind of dealing with that little bug of it not detecting the desktops, which isn't actually needed for everything. I probably need to go in and improve that to where we're only checking for desktops whenever we need it. Although it is needed quite a bit. Anytime you're launching a window, you need to know how many desktops do we have, because we don't want to assume that all these desktops that you have like 10 desktops and then you only have 4, like you change something. So I don't know. Extend the timeout to 30 seconds to catch any additional late flickers and confirm 5AD7 truly stabilizes. Run it 2 to 3 times to see if the late flicker is consistent or one-off. Check the observe script's polling interval. The consistent. Let's look at this actual test. What is the test? Test, observe, launch. That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, so we're doing kdoitall search, GTK launch, and then get current window list. Okay, we'll run this test a few more times and just see what kind of output we get. And that's probably going to be all I have time for today. Good progress, but we're just figuring out more about these edge cases and potentially maybe a slight bug in our detection process. Okay. So those gone events, real window destructions, or the kdoitall search occasionally not returning a UUID that still exists. I don't know. It's hard to say. Check the observe script's polling interval. Hello. Hello. Okay. We are freezing. I don't know what happened there. I don't want to lose that window. I need that session. I don't know why it's being so buggy today. Everything wants to be buggy today. La 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 la. Okay. Zoom it in. Okay. I don't know how to look at chat sessions. Sessions, maybe? List? Conversations? I don't know. Create a branch. Clear conversation or name. Or zoom a previous conversation. Well, that's what I need to. I don't know the ID for it. Let me look this up real fast. .48 seconds ago. Continue splash window integration. Okay. Well, I needed to do that. I don't know, maybe that session just bugged out. I don't know what it still is. Yeah, that session has just bugged like crazy. Okay, we'll improve the timeout and run it ourselves. I'll mess with Claude Code tomorrow. Duration. Is that our duration? Okay. Oh, all right. Let me run this test again then. It's clear. I do have quite a few other things to work on for this project that should be a lot easier to do, but I really do need to push my way through these edge cases before I start making some more features. But it will be a lot funner once I can get back to making features. Okay. So yeah, we are having some kind of bug. That could be maybe an issue with processing. Oh, something worth looking into, and I think I will also look more into that desktop error that popped up a few times. We should improve that to some degree. I don't know how often I want to check for the number of desktops. I mean, in most cases, you can just assume. It's worth looking into. Okay, well, we did make some progress today, and it does look less like it is Digicam being crazy and making all kinds of windows, and it looks more like it's some issue with our detection and that we're having failed detections to some degree. So we'll look into that more. So I think this will likely be the last time I stream this week. Maybe I'll work on this a bit offline so that I can work on some funner stuff online. But appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Make sure to shoot me a follow if you get the chance. Would greatly appreciate that. And with that, I think we'll call it a day. Hope you all have a lovely day. And if you don't see me again, hope you have a great weekend. See you guys later. Peace.